Welcome to this evening's reflection. I'm Anne. Well, yesterday I spoke about sitting under some trees with a creek running along beside, and how those trees reminded me of some words from the book of Isaiah. Trees of righteousness, a planting of the Lord. And also some words from Jeremiah, that when I put my confidence and trust in the Lord, I am like a tree that planted by the water that sends out its roots beside the stream. And as I sat under those trees and looked up, I noticed that the eucalypts and blackwoods, the myrtles and the tea trees had branches that were side by side and interwoven, and so they weaved between and around each other to help form that lovely green canopy above me. And so with the leaves of different shapes and sizes and shades, that sometimes overlapped as well as being side by side, they blended into a beautiful webbing through which the sun filtered down and that softened the rain as it fell onto the seedlings, and in which birds stayed and played. Quite a lovely kind of sight. As well as the trees I've just mentioned, there were many other different plants nearby where I sat. Ferns and bushes, grasses and reeds, grasses and wildflowers. It was an amazingly varied display of nature. So in that small area, tucked away at the back of a farm in northwest Tasmania, I could sample just a little bit of God's wonderfully diverse creation. Each plant, even though it's part of a species, was uniquely different, and in that difference made its own special contribution to the whole of the environment in which it lived. And similarly, trees of righteousness planted by the Lord aren't meant to be the same. Their difference is part of what God creates within his trees of righteousness and between them. God delights in our differences, which is wonderful, I think. He wants each of us to make our own unique contributions to his kingdom that Jesus established here on earth. It's not important what the colour of my skin is, or whether, it doesn't matter what language I speak, or whether I'm female or male, old or young, tall or short, overweight or slim. Doesn't matter what culture I come from compared to the others around me, whether I'm poor or wealthy, whether I can sing in tune or not, or stand up in front and speak with people or not, whether I work in an office, cook in a kitchen, am good with computers. All of those things are important contributions. But what makes us important is each tree belongs to Jesus Christ, and he loves each of us just the way we are, and each of us has a contribution to make. What matters is putting my trust and confidence in the Lord. When I follow Jesus' teaching and do life his way, that's when I show I am a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendour. And it's the same for you. When you do life God's way, you show you are a planting through which God's glory can be displayed. God takes such pleasure in all the many different kinds of trees of righteousness he has planted. Psalm 139 says that he knows each of us intimately. You formed my innermost being, Psalm 139 says. Everything you do is marvellously breathtaking. How thoroughly you know me, Lord. You saw who you created me to be before I became me. You cherish me constantly in your every thought. So there, in that stand of trees, when I noticed the branches and the leaves intertwining, it struck me that God wants his trees of righteousness to share life together, to nurture and support each other. As a tree of righteousness, it's important for me to not only recognise the many different kinds of trees God's planted, including me as part of that diversity, it's also important for me to embrace and accept, to nurture and learn from and take delight in God's different kinds of trees he's planted near me. As you follow Jesus, may you remember that you are a tree of righteousness through which God displays his majesty and glory and grace. I invite you to consider those people God has planted around you. Take the time, make the effort to support them and accept them, even with their differences. And if you're feeling a bit down on yourself, please know that God sees and knows who you are, inside and out, and he loves you dearly. Body and soul, you are marvellously made, even if life has dented you along the way. You will grow in faith and endure the hard times when you put your confidence and trust in the Lord, and when you depend on his faithfulness and love for you. I'll see you again tomorrow, so bye for now.